Hello and welcome to this short how-to video on staff utilization in J.D. Edwards Release 22. My name is Bud Shaw, and I am a solution architect for GSI. Just a bit about me. Spent over 30 years in solution consulting, and my last 23 years with J.D. Edwards. I work for, this is just a brief safe harbor statement. I'll let you read through it, just setting privacy and, non-committal to the things you see and hear in this content belongs solely to GSI. That's who I work for. GSI is a full service JD Edwards partner. We're an Oracle Platinum partner. And I think the most important point of this slide, which describes us for where you may be interested in being a JD Edwards customer or user, is that we are a full service ERP, SaaS, cloud, IT service, manage, your whole infrastructure manager, cybersecurity, and we have a large consulting service staff and managed service organization to help you with all your J.D. Edwards needs. And as the slide calls out, we do go into a few other areas, Oracle NetSuite, Salesforce.com, ServiceNow, and some other ones. And if you want a little more information about GSI, just feel free to reach out to us. Okay. In Release 22, in Release 22, this new module came out called Staff Utilization, actually a new application, which is an interactive user interface to manage the users that have been assigned to work orders, primarily focusing in on capital asset maintenance and service work orders. So those are the two primary document types that the module works for, but it really would work for any, although I could really see mostly, WM, which is a traditional maintenance work orders for capital assets, and or an SV, which is a service work order for your customer service requests and things like this. And this application utilizes a drag and drop approach to adjusting where you may be over utilizing a resource. As you can see here, this user, Michael Josephson, and this screenshot is over capacity by 4 hours and is showing in red, and then allowing a dispatcher, whoever's responsible for the workload and getting things done, to be able to use a drag and drop interface to adjust that workload. It is now included in the Release 22 in the UX1 for a maintenance supervisor. And you can see here I've got the springboard for this for a maintenance supervisor role, and staff utilization is one of the applications on that springboard. So without further ado, I'm going to walk through a little flow live in the system and show you. So we'll show you the staff utilization application and work with it. And then we'll create a new maintenance work order. I'm just going to pick one approach. There's multiple ways to get maintenance or service work orders into the system. I'm just going to get one in quick to highlight that activity. Then we'll show you resource assignments where you set, for this work order, if you don't have a default populating in by a skill set or something like that, how just a planner can assign a resource to the work order. And then we'll go back into staff utilization where somebody has that bigger picture across multiple organizations, business use or whatever, and adjusts the load where it needs to be done. And then we'll show you a little bit of how you would check your resource setups and hours, to feed the data into the module. So I'm going to log into my demo system here. And as I mentioned, we'll be here in the maintenance supervisor UX1 page. The traditional UX1 page approaches, alerts on the left, overdue maintenance work orders or overdue preventive maintenance schedules. the analytics, of how old work orders are out there and timeliness completion. And then here on the right is the springboard of action. So alert, analyze, and then act on the right. So going into the act side of things, we'll launch the staff utilization application. And as we're in here, since it is a springboard, you can navigate to other applications within JD Edwards. And simply coming in here, you have the format you want to view it by crew and assignee, or a supervisor assignee, or crew and craft, and then a date range default from the program. And I'll give you the program number for this one, and just as we go through some of the setups. You can highlight and just quickly click on overutilization and see who's overutilized, but we'll just do a refresh and look at all of the workload that's out here. So very simply, we can see here that Tim Roberts on the 8th, which is coming up next week, is over capacity by 6 hours, right? And you can then right click on, you can right click on that day for Tim and go either into his working hours, and maybe if you can get him to work some overtime, you can look with other resources and see who's available, or we can simply go in and reschedule the assignment. In the upper corner here is showing you what the work order is all about, estimated hours, and his craft as a mechanic and whatnot. So we can see here there's one order for to adjust the pump impeller is an 8-hour job, and this next one to replace the pump check valve is 6. So we can simply take and drag that off till the next day, and let it go. And you can see where we've adjusted his workload to be appropriate. We can, if you don't want to, and you decide you made a mistake, you can always undo and put it back to the way he was, right? So how did that get there? I'm going to close staff utilization, and I've got in my springboard here, I've got an access to the planning workbench. So multiple ways to get maintenance work orders in, a case, triggered a work order creation or a preventive maintenance schedule, or, just a myriad of ways to do that. But what I'm going to do is just show you, just for simplicity's sake, I'm going to highlight an order for a piece of equipment that has been reported to me, this boiler feed pump, equipment number 159054, right? And I want to create a new maintenance activity, and it's been reported to me that there's a cracked hose on that pump that we want to get replaced. So I'm going to just highlight that work order so I can save some of the keystrokes. It's going to bring the equipment number for who it belongs to, and we can say this is a cracked hose replacement. And the failure description for, failure analysis is that we had a cracked hose here. So the hose has cracks, okay? Now we can just get started within here and say, okay, I'd like to get this one done, on Monday, a couple of days from now, so we can just assign requested dates in here. Now, depending on how your workflow activities are within it, this is going to create an order with a particular status code, where I'm just going to say save and continue in here. And then we're going to, I'm going to go ahead and approve it so that it gets out there. Just, this is work order activity rules and saving it. And I'm going to say, I think this is an 8-hour job. That's my estimate. So we can go ahead and save those changes and then close out. And we've created a new work order number 58541. Now we haven't defaulted or assigned any anybody to do the work yet. A couple ways that can happen, but what we traditionally do is somebody within that facility, goes into resource assignments, they open up and say, okay, here is the orders, and there's my new cracked hose replacement with the estimate of 8 hours. And they just simply highlight it and see, depending on a skill set or whatever may be required here, they can see who's available, and on calendar to do that. So we can go to Joel Briggs, and we can say, he's off for the weekend, but he's on the 8th when this order is going to be available, and we can go ahead and assign him to that activity. So he's assigned to this cracked hose replacement activity. We then go back to our staff utilization, right? And when we refresh the staff utilization, you can see he's over capacity now, and in a highlighted red. And we can go ahead, just like we did before, we can go ahead and adjust, his workload, right? And if we go in here, let's take this, 8 hour and move it out to the next day so we can get this completed. And then go ahead and close that, and we've adjusted the utilizations where he's not in jeopardy anymore. So that's kind of the flow here. The things to consider for you is when you're creating your maintenance work orders. I use those planning workbench, right? And it creates work orders using the program P13714. There are other options to create work orders, so that's the way I used it. Before you use the resource assignments, you want to check your processing options on that program, the P48331, to make sure that you're using it for WM work, maintenance work orders versus an SV, which might be a service work order. You could have different versions depending on what your business does. I will highly recommend take a look at the UDC code 48RL. And the reason I bring that up is depending upon how you schedule your work orders at an operational level or at a whole work order level, this UDC controls the level that the work orders gets assigned to, right? So you can see here, I don't have my WMs in here defined in here. If it's defined in here, the WM work order, it will then want to assign it at an operational level. And we just did a work order for at the whole work order parent level. But you can see if you do have the document, so you might, when your first time in, get a warning or an error that says, resource assignment level is incorrect. That's the reason why. So you'll want to come in here, and if you just delete that document type from this UDC code, it will then allow you to assign the resources at the parent level, right? So that's that. Now, staff utilization, not a lot of setup on there other than the dates, and or whether you're using it for the WM or SV, the document type that you want to make sure your version of that you're launching has that maintenance, has that document type in there. And then finally, if you're not that familiar with using resources and whatnot, check your resource master for your employees. Here is who did I use? I think I used Joel Briggs. We assigned him, and you can take a look at what calendar he's associated with for the dates and times that he works, and time zone that he reported and whatnot. If you don't have that information in there, this is where his lead craft default would show up. If you want to put that lead craft required in there to help you plan through and assign resources, you can do that. His supervisor or crew, if he belongs to a crew, and remember back into the staff utilization view, you had the different views of by a supervisor or crew or a particular um, end user, um, or a particular resource. So that is taking us just a quick how-to on staff utilization. If feel free to reach out to me or my organization at GSI. Uh, my email, as I mentioned earlier, and I'll call it, is bud.shaw@getgsi.com. And I want to thank you for attending this quick how-to video.